Okay, so ready to dive in. Today we're tackling a book that's, get this, almost 100 years old. And here's the thing, it's packed with insights that still feel relevant today. Like, surprisingly so. We're talking The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn, published way back in 1925.
Yeah, 1925. And, what strikes me right off the bat is how Shin takes this, well, kind of everyday of life, right? And flips it, turns it into this game. A game where our thoughts, what we think, actually shapes what happens.
It's like she's predating all this talk about manifestation, right? Like, we're not just along for the ride, we're actively creating the ride.
Exactly. And she kicks it all off with this core concept, giving and receiving, which, it has this karmic ring to it,
Oh,
right?
totally. Karma, what goes around comes around.
But Shin, she takes it a step further, says it's not just about our actions like what we do, it's about our thoughts too. And even the words we use makes you think twice about all those conversations we have, both in our heads and out loud.
No kidding. It's like every thought, every word has this ripple effect.
And she illustrates this with a story, kind of spooky actually, about this little girl who, well, she used to pretend to be a widow.
A widow.
Yeah, and the story goes, later in life, that's exactly what happened to her. She became a widow.
Whoa. Okay, that's a little unsettling. Makes you wonder about the power of, like, what we constantly picture in our minds.
Right, and Shin has a term for this, the imaging faculty. It's this idea that what we repeatedly imagine, well, we can actually attract it into our lives.
Have you ever experienced that, like, had a thought, maybe not as dramatic as that story, but a thought that just kept popping up, and then somehow it kind of materialized?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have. And to understand this, Shin breaks down the mind into three parts. You've got the subconscious, which she describes as this powerhouse of energy, like raw electricity. Then there's the conscious mind, that's like the steering wheel, guiding that energy.
Okay, so the conscious mind is calling the shots, kind of.
In a way, yeah. And then there's the superconscious. This is like the source of, I don't know, perfect ideas, like tapping into some higher wisdom.
So it's like we're constantly feeding this subconscious, this raw energy, with whatever our conscious mind is focused on. And that, in turn, influences what comes back to us, good or bad.
Exactly. And this brings us to another fascinating concept Shin introduces, divine design. She suggests that each of us, we have this like perfect plan, a blueprint. And sometimes those crazy dreams we have, those things that seem impossible, they might actually be glimpses of that plan, like hints from our soul about what we're truly capable of.
That's a really cool way to think about it. It's like those seemingly impossible desires might actually be, I don't know, signs pointing us towards our true potential.
Right. And then there's the role of words. Shin is very clear about this. Words, they're not just sounds. They have actual power to shape reality.
So it's not just our thoughts that matter, it's what we say out loud, too.
Absolutely, but then that raises a question, doesn't it? If our thoughts and words are so powerful, what about the negative stuff? Like, are we accidentally attracting bad things too?
Yeah, that's a good point. What if we're focusing on what we don't want instead of what we do want?
Exactly. And Shin tackles this head on. She tells this story about a woman who kept joking about ending up in poverty. And guess what? That's exactly what happened.
Oh, wow.
And she also talks about people who achieve success, but instead of owning it, they attribute it to luck or some external thing, and then they lose it. It's almost like they're tempting fate, not taking responsibility.
So it's not just about avoiding negative thoughts, it's about taking ownership of the positive ones, too.
Right. And she doesn't stop there. She's a huge advocate for positive self-talk, like actually talking ourselves into good fortune.
Is that even possible? Like, can we really change our luck just by changing the way we talk to ourselves?
Well, Shin believes so. She gives this amazing example of a woman who had a really bad skin condition, and she healed it by consciously cultivating love and letting go of resentment.
Wow. So it's not just about avoiding negative self-talk, it's about actively promoting the positive.
Exactly. Okay, but now the big question. How do we actually put all this into practice? Like, how do we start playing this game of life more effectively?
Right. It's one thing to understand the theory, but how do we make it work in real life?
Well, one key strategy Shin emphasizes is non-resistance. And now this doesn't mean just giving up and letting things happen. Right?
No, I wouldn't think so.
It's more about not fighting against challenges. It's about going with the flow, trusting that there's a bigger picture at play.
Okay, so it's about surrendering to something greater than ourselves.
In a way, yeah. And there's this great story about a woman who was terrified of walking under ladders, like really phobic.
I've heard of that.
Well, one day she needed to get to her safe deposit box. And the only way was, you guessed it, under a ladder.
Oh, no.
but she remembered this principle of non-resistance, and so she decided to face her fear. And guess what happened? When she got there, the ladder was gone.
Seriously, it had just disappeared.
Gone. It makes you wonder, right? Like, how much of what we fear is actually created by our own
It's
anxieties?
like we're manifesting our own problems sometimes.
And this ties into the idea of karma. What goes around comes around. Shin tells this funny story about a woman having lunch with her aunt. And the woman, she's like, no more talk. I want to eat in peace. And guess what? The next day, someone says that exact same phrase to her.
Huh. That's a pretty clear message for the universe, right?
Right. So if karma is this system of balance, how do we break free from those negative cycles? Like, is it even possible to escape patterns of negativity from our past?
Yeah, how do we get out of that loop?
Well, Shin introduces this idea of grace, forgiveness. She suggests that grace can actually transcend karma. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card. By forgiving ourselves and others, we release the energy of those past actions.
So forgiveness is key to moving forward.
Exactly. But there's still this big question, right? How do we actually reprogram our subconscious mind? Like, how do we convince it to attract the things we want?
Right? How do we go from understanding these principles to actually using them to create positive change?
Well, Shin offers some very specific techniques. One of the most important is affirmations. These are positive statements about what we want to experience repeated with intention.
So we're basically giving our subconscious mind clear instructions, like I am healthy, I am prosperous, things like that.
Exactly. But what if we don't actually believe those affirmations? Like, wouldn't that create a conflict?
Yeah, if you're saying something you don't actually believe, is that going to work?
Well, Shin addresses that. She says it's crucial to choose affirmations that resonate with us. Like, they should be aspirational, but also believable. The goal is to identify our limiting beliefs and then use affirmations to gently challenge them. It's a process, not an overnight fix.
So it's about gradually shifting our beliefs, not forcing ourselves to believe something we don't.
Right. And she also suggests using music to enhance affirmations. Music has this incredible ability to bypass the conscious mind and go straight to the subconscious.
Makes sense. Music can be so powerful emotionally.
Totally. So when you combine affirmations with music that evokes positive feelings, it can really amplify their impact.
Interesting. What about movement? Does that play a role too?
Yeah, Shin suggests that rhythmic movement, like dancing or walking, can help embed those affirmations even deeper. It's like physically expressing those intentions.
Okay, so we've got affirmations, music, movement. Any other tools in the toolbox?
Oh, yeah. Another powerful concept is casting the burden. This is about consciously surrendering our worries to a higher power. Like we don't have to carry everything ourselves.
So it's about letting go and trusting that something bigger than us is taking care of things.
Exactly. But what about those tough times? Those dark nights of the soul where it feels like everything's falling apart?
Yeah, what about those moments when it's hard to stay positive?
Well, Shin acknowledges that these dark periods often come before major breakthroughs. It's like shaking up a snow globe. Things get messy before they settle into a new, beautiful pattern.
So those tough times might actually be a sign that we're on the verge of something great.
Exactly. And during those times, it's crucial to hold on to faith. Shin tells the story of King Jehoshaphat, who faced a huge enemy army but chose to praise God instead of panicking, and his forces were saved. It's about choosing faith over fear, especially when it's hard.
So faith is key, even when things look bleak.
Yes. And she emphasizes that it's not just about passive belief, it's about active faith, taking action that aligns with our beliefs.
Okay, so faith in action. Any stories that illustrate this?
Oh, yeah, there's a really moving one about a woman who was separated from her husband, and she just wouldn't give up on their relationship. She started affirming their unity, even setting a place for him at the dinner table every night. And after a year, he came back.
Wow, that's powerful. So even when things seem impossible, our beliefs and actions can make a difference.
Right, and it's important to celebrate the small wins along the way, too. Shin calls them breadcrumbs, like little signs that we're on the right track.
So paying attention to those little synchronicities can be really encouraging.
Absolutely. But there's one more crucial element we need to address, and that's fear. Fear can be a huge obstacle, holding us back from our full potential.
Fear. Yeah, it can be paralyzing. So how do we overcome it?
Well, Shin's advice is simple, but not always easy. She says, face it, walk right up to the thing you're afraid of. Because fear thrives in the shadows. When we confront it, it loses its power.
Easier said than done, right?
Definitely. But there are ways to start. For example, if you're afraid of financial scarcity, Shin suggests releasing that fear by actually spending money. It's about demonstrating faith in abundance, even when it feels scary.
Okay, so sometimes we need to take a leap of faith.
Right, and for fears that are harder to confront directly, like public speaking or heights, it's a more gradual process. It takes time, patience, and self-compassion. And forgiveness is crucial here too. Holding on to guilt and regret just feeds our fears.
So letting go of the past is essential for moving forward.
Exactly. And these principles, they apply to every area of life, our careers, relationships, health, finances. It's about becoming more conscious creators of our own experience.
Not just letting life happen to us, but actively shaping it.
Right. It's not about becoming a guru or anything. It's about making choices that align with our highest good and trusting the guidance we receive.
That's really empowering. Any final words of wisdom from Shin that you want to share?
Well, there's this quote I love. It says, "The game of life is not so much in winning as in playing it well. It's a reminder that life is meant to be enjoyed, not just endured."
That's a beautiful sentiment. So to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive into the game of life and how to play it has given you some new perspective to ponder. Take what resonates with you, experiment with these ideas, and see what happens. Remember, the real game begins when we start putting these principles into practice. So go out there and play with joy, courage, and an open heart. Until next time, keep diving deep.